I've been doing podcasting for 10 years, talked to a lot of pizza entrepreneurs, and I've recently had the experience of going into these pizza shops, talking to the entrepreneurs inside of them, and getting to see how they run their business. Because being able to see behind the scenes of how they actually run their business is a huge advantage for me and now you. I'm going to be sharing some tips and some strategies, as well as like what you can steal from these pizzerias and steal in a good way because they're showing us everything. But I want to break that down to you on these videos. I'm going to go into the videos. We'll show you. I'll talk to the owner. We'll show you the behind the scenes over on our Pizzeria Insider videos. And then afterwards, I'm going to come back over here and give you a quick recap of what I've learned from there and break down what you can take away from that episode and show you as well. And today we're starting with Blue Square Pizza. Troy from Blue Square Pizza in Hopkinton, and now another location, his second generation location, is doing an amazing job making 4 styles of pizza with one dough. And his first location in Hopkinton was the location where he wanted to figure out how everything was going to work and if he was even going to do that. And now that he's figured it out, his second location, which we just recently visited, is his blueprint model. He has everything down to a science. He has everything figured out, and he's doing almost $3 million a year in sales out of a location that, when you see it, isn't that big. And I'm going to break down for you what you can take away from this video with Blue Square Pizza. The first thing I notice is that he's doing 4 different styles of dough: Detroit, New York style, cracker thin, tavern style, as well as grandma style. And he's doing it all with the same dough. And I've been to many pizzerias, and many pizzerias have multiple versions of pizza or different styles that they're serving. But for the most part, they're all doing different kinds of dough. And Troy has figured out how to leverage one dough recipe for 4 different styles. And I talked to Troy and I said, listen, you're doing $3 million a year in sales, and this place isn't very big. Do you think that if you just took away those styles or focused on 1, maybe 2, that you would do that volume of sales? And he said no. So being able to do that volume and figure out how to do 4 different styles of dough with one dough recipe is really interesting to me, and something that I never really thought was possible until I met Troy. I'm sure there are other people out there doing it, but none that I have had the pleasure of talking to or visiting their pizza shops. So that was observation number 1. If you are going to do multiple styles, try to figure out how to do multiple styles of dough without having to do multiple styles of dough prep and dough monitoring, because doing different flours and different recipes is very time consuming, and it leads to you having to be around quite a bit. So Troy owns 2 Blue Square Pizzas, but he also owns 4 or 5 other pizza shops that have a different name that we didn't talk about in the episode. So he's managing 6 or 7 different pizza shops, and at that level, you really have to have things dialed in. Lesson number 2 that I noticed is efficiency. Where you were walking through the kitchen, and it seems real tight, but the one thing that I've learned is square footage is extremely important, whether that's a lack of square footage or too much square footage. Sometimes you can have a lot of space, but then that means you need more people to do the same amount of work that less people could do if everything was a little bit tighter. And as we walk through Troy's kitchen at Blue Square Pizza, he explained to me how he set the kitchen up differently than his first one and why he did that. And everything flows. So it starts with the dough room. The dough comes over. You move from, stretching out the dough to putting it into the oven. You turn around. You don't even have to walk. All you have to do is turn around when you take the pizza out of the oven, put it on the screen. Right around the other side of the rack, there's somebody there that's going to top the pizza. They take that pizza off the rack, top it, finish it up, put it in a box. They turn around and put it up for the person who's at the front dealing with the customers. Now, there is no seating here. There is no dining. This is a full just takeout delivery operation, and he has the flow set up specifically for that. And he's done a masterful job because there is no wasted space. Yes, it's probably a little tight in there, but that, when it gets busy, is appreciated by the staff because they don't have to move around a ton. They're just kind of in their workspace. They're able to do their job, and they're able to figure out how to move without having to move a ton, which is really important. The next lesson is he has no dine-in. There is no seating here whatsoever in this new location. And I thought that was curious, not even a couple tables. And he just didn't want to waste the square footage for that location. And again, back to the 4 styles of dough, the reason that Detroit style and grandma style and cracker thin and New York, those carry very well. I don't know if you could do this model with a Neapolitan style pizzeria because I just don't think Neapolitan style pizza carries well. And He has done the numbers. He's a very much analytical numbers guy, and he ran the numbers. And running the numbers, he can just do more volume in that space or limited space without having a dining room and do the same sales volume. Like I mentioned before, he's doing about $3 million projected this year in this location with no seating. And you have to be super efficient in order to do that. And there's another thing that I've noticed over the course of doing these Pizzeria Insider videos over the last year, plus talking to entrepreneurs. I've noticed there's a model. Now, I don't know if this model is going to stick around forever, and I don't know if it's super sustainable. But as of right now, the most profitable pizzerias I see, and by profit I mean not gross sales volume. I mean the money you take home after all of your expenses. The most profitable business models I've seen for pizza shops are small, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 top square foot, takeout delivery, possibly 1 or 2 tables out front. But you are a majority takeout delivery pizzeria serving 1 style or 2 styles, in this case 4, but there's not a lot of places doing it like Troy here, styles of pizza, and you are very good at it. And you have a small, limited menu. Troy only sells pizza. Now, he does do 4 styles of pizza, but he only sells pizza, a couple salads, and 1 or 2 side items. And that's his whole menu. And he sells a lot of that because he does it really, really well. And that's the blueprint I see and that I want to follow. 1,200 square feet, do New York style, maybe a Detroit style here and there, a couple salads, 1 or 2 side items, and just pump as much of that out as you possibly can in a small footprint, because a smaller footprint means less overhead, less rent, less employees needed to run the same thing, and then you can easily do that on a $1 million, $2 million a year basis for a pizza shop. In the Pizzeria Insider video, I asked Troy, I'm like, why do you do it this way? And he's like, he has had opportunities to own, 3,000, 4,000 square foot restaurants, and he's passed on them because after running the numbers, he realized that running the numbers on a restaurant that size, he would actually end up making the same money. And all the only difference would be looks of the owning a big restaurant that's full in capacity, and it would be cool to own a restaurant like that. But in actuality, when it comes to like headaches, workload, and profitability, the numbers didn't work. He would have to do more work, have to have more people, have to have more overhead and responsibility to actually end up making the same profit that he's making right now in this small footprint of Blue Square Pizza, which only does takeout and delivery. So that's definitely something to think about. Now, listen, I love those restaurants. I love going to restaurants, and I hope people continue to open restaurants because I enjoy visiting them. I don't want to own those. I want to make a business where I enjoy doing what I like to do, which is making pizza, great pizza, and I want to make it as profitable as possible. And I want to be able to pay the employees well while also being able to be as profitable as possible. And you can have a balance if you run the numbers right and you make sure that you're opening the proper pizzeria that you can do that in. And having a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot restaurant, I don't think allows you to do that the best way possible. And lastly, Troy does a lot of training. He has a lot of people because when you have 6 pizzerias total, you need to rely on people to be able to run and maintain those things properly. So what he does is he's fanatical about systems. Every single thing has a system in his business. The dough has an exact system. I asked him, a lot of people tweak their recipe. If you're an owner-operator of a pizza shop, there's a lot of times where you're working on your dough every week. You try to make it better every single week. And I asked Troy, I said, hey, do you change your dough recipe or is it set? He's like, no, we do not change the dough recipe. I've worked so long on this recipe. I know exactly how it works. The only thing that changes is the temperature of the water and how quickly we get it in and out of the cooler. But the measurements, the flour we use, all of that is exactly the same every single time. And we have a system and a process for that. And then also he does these trial periods where it's kind of like trying out for a team. He hires you to work in the Blue Square Pizza kitchen and you work for a month trial. And if you do well and you think you can do it, he offers you a job. But there's no set, hey, you're hired, you get to do the job whether you think you can do it or not. And again, I don't know if everybody can do that. It's working for Troy. I may try that out when we open our pizzeria, but that's just another observation that I had. All right, so that's a recap. Work your systems, invest in the right equipment, make sure you train your people, make sure you have a proper dough system that you can pump out maybe 2 or 3 different kinds of dough with one recipe. Smaller footprints equal bigger profits from what I've learned. And those are just some of the key takeaways I had from visiting Blue Square Pizza. If you want to check out that video, you can go over to the Slice platform on YouTube. I'll link it up in the description below this video. You can hear us talk to Troy, walk you through the pizzeria, and give you a little bit deeper dive into it. If you have any questions, leave a comment below in the description of this video. We'll link up everything we talked about. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.